So the Glens Falls Post-Star disagrees with Donald Trump and says they're not the enemy of the people. They respond to Donald Trump's claims that the nation's newspapers print and publish a lot of propaganda, and a lot of this propaganda works against the people of the United States. The Glens Falls Post-Star has not printed anything about the thousands of times that Lake George has been flushed. The Glens Falls Post-Star won't get into any of the details of the history of the giant mill pond called Lake George. One of the biggest stories in the whole area, the massive dumping of huge amounts of sewage into the Lachute River and huge amounts of mill waste and sewage and all kind of toxic chemicals into Fort Ticonderoga, into the South Bay area on Lake Champlain. The Glens Falls Post-Star will not talk about the repeated over and over dumping of huge amounts of water, the Lake George drawdown. They won't talk about any of the facts that have been published in large quantities about the historical record of Isaac Kellogg's damned dam. They won't talk about the 54% too small spillways that the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Stetson Engineering Company have evaluated at the dam at Ticonderoga. They won't print any of that. And they won't print any of the facts that the massive dock damages and boathouse damages and island damages and the shoreline damages, the massive dock damage that destroyed my parents, they haven't printed anything about that. In fact, the publisher has blocked me. He blocked my accounts. I can't even send him a message because he's just not going to deal with it. And here's another one that's pretty twisted. The dark brown Garwood that young girl was a passenger in, that passed in front of the Adam West boat at dusk on Lake George. Now, I've operated boats on Lake George hundreds of times. I would literally consider myself an expert, having grown up on the marina at Harris Bay, the Swamp Marina, the East Shores Harbor, today called the Harris Bay Yacht Club. That dark brown boat at dusk or at dark would be hard to see. They're very low in the water, and not seeing that dark brown Garwood is a big fact in the unfortunate accident that killed that little girl. But the Post-Star won't print any of that. The Glens Falls Post-Star has got its own agenda, and they only print their version of the story. And here's the really twisted part. This over and over flushing of huge amounts of sewage contaminated, they even call it leachate because they don't want to call it sewage. It's not leachate, it's sewage. It's coming out of the brownfields. Thousands of septic tank leach fields all around Lake George, and the Glens Falls Post-Star, well, they sugarcoat and whitewash the story. Now, Ken Tingsley comes out and he got the nerve to lie to everybody in the whole area and said, we're not the enemy of the people, and, you know, we're just business owners, and this paper's been around since, 1902, and, we're the standing pillars of salt in the community there in Warren County, New York. And I got a message for the Post-Star. What a load of poop. Just like all that sewage they're flushing down the Lachute River into South Bay on Champlain. And your coverage of the green algae blooms and all this money that Governor Cuomo, your hero, Governor Cuomo, is going to fix it all. Governor Cuomo didn't get around to fixing it all until I got right up in his grill and started publishing the historical record of the facts associated with the poisoning of Lake George. I started publishing those stories all over the world. Has the Glens Falls Post-Star called me one single time? No.